Two Formula One Grand Prix in the USA in 1 year for the first time since 1984. And it's this man, Max Verstappen, who has won the inaugural Miami Grand Prix. He recovered from a messy Friday and a disappointing qualifying to score maximum points with a win and fastest lap. And he's closed the gap in the World Drivers' Championship table from Charles Leclerc to just 19 points. Very much welcoming you at this very special edition of the GoF1 Show, timed for your convenience wherever you are in the world, particularly if you're joining us from our home time zone, which of course is Asia. Do therefore share your thoughts and your questions using our social media handle at GoF1 Show. And let's get straight into it with my regular co-host, Alex Yoong, joining us, of course, from Kuala Lumpur. I've got two questions for you, Alex. The first is, did you stay up late at night, early in the morning to watch this race live, or did you catch a replay? What do you think of the racetrack?
No, I set the alarm at 3 o'clock in the morning so I could stay up and watch it, because I know if I didn't watch it, you'd be not very pleased. And you're a tough master, you are. Yeah, so Miami, you know, how interesting, yeah? You know, when I first saw the track, when it first came out, I thought, it's in a car park. You know, I wasn't very excited about the prospect of this track from a driver's point of view. But what an event, eh? I mean, I know there were some small issues with the track and stuff, and you know, making it hard to overtake and stuff like that. But wow, all the glitz and the glamour was there. Everyone turned out for it. You know, I mean, it looked like it's the sort of event that is going to rival Singapore, even surpass it, really. You know, and it makes me. It's now a race that I think I wouldn't mind going to sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Joining us tonight, our very special guest for this show is Juan Fosaroli, who is the face of Formula One in Latin America. If you're watching from Latin America, he'll be very familiar to you. He's been covering Formula One, it's hard to believe, for 20 years. Must have been a schoolboy when he started. And somebody that we know very well from working, you know, side by side in the media pen over a number of years when Alex and I worked before at Fox Sports Asia. I wanted to get Juan on the show today for two reasons. One, of course, is that Miami is very much a sort of Latin community within the USA. And secondly, because he's been spending not only in the past several years, but particularly over the last 4 and 5 races, talking to the drivers. So to really get some insight. Juan, welcome from the Miami heat. Don't think we're hearing you, Juan. We've lost your audio. So Juan's going to work on his audio.
Now,
there he is.
What about now?
You're back. Yeah. I need you.
It's not early in the morning, but it was a long night here in Miami. That's why I forgot to click the microphone. But anyway, hi Matthew, hi Alex, and
hi.
We are here. I will stay here for a week also, and then go to Barcelona. But it was incredible. Alex mentioned an event. It was an incredible event. Maybe the race was not that interesting until the safety car, but we'll talk about that later. But I think the track was also, you can do it a little bit better for the future, fix some parts, because it's, as Alex say, it's a parking lot. No, they can do a little arrangements there, but I like it. The whole event and everything, the race itself, it was very exciting.
Great, and it's very exciting to have you with us. So thank you again, Juan, for joining us today. Let's take a look at the results of this inaugural Miami Grand Prix. Of course, it was Max Verstappen, as we said, who won the Grand Prix and took fastest lap ahead of his championship rival there, Charles Leclerc. And Alex, when you look at that top 10, were you surprised in particular to see the Mercedes cars there?
Well, you know, if you just woke up right now and you just looked at these results, you think that's pretty all right, you know? Big 3 teams in the top 6 sort of thing. But it wasn't anything like that, was it? I mean, okay, yes, Hamilton was up there, but George Russell on the hard tire was all the way at the back at the beginning. And somehow, he took a bit of a gamble and hoped on that safety car to come out. And that got him into the top 6. Well, he continued his run of top 5 performances, quite extraordinary. Bottas there, he was on course for a P5 until that small mistake towards the end. So it did get really exciting just towards the end. On the face of it, looks like a pretty standard race result, but there was some excitement there.
It was plenty for us to talk about in the next 40 minutes or so. Juan, I want to ask you about Max Verstappen's 23rd Grand Prix win. Was it a straightforward weekend for him?
No, not at all, because as Alex mentioned, or you did yourself also, Friday was a very poor day with not much running. That Saturday he made a mistake in the last attempt in Q3, and even that he was a little upset with the team. He said we cannot afford to do these mistakes. You know, he was like blaming the team. When you're not happy, all the drivers do that. No, then they say, okay, it was at the moment of the heat and whatever. But I think he recovered very, very well, and that start was the key. No, it's overtaking Carlos Sainz was fantastic, because if he was holding behind Carlos Sainz, will give a chance to Charles to get away. But I think that was one of the moves of the races, and obviously later the overtake to Charles. No, but I think in the race he was perfect. He was not perfect in quali, and the team didn't give the car on Friday. That's why he overcome with all that problems, and he made a brilliant race.
And we've had a question already in from our audience, so let's get that straight up on the screen, because we love it when our audience sends us a question. There's actually two kind of built into one here, and I'm going to throw this to you, Alex, which was Miami Grand Prix. Was it just meh?
No, I mean the Grand Prix, the event was fantastic. The track, yeah. I mean, I think what it sounds like, it was a car park. What can you do in a car park? It was always going to be a bit tricky. I mean, they had the Mickey Mouse chicane, which was kind of surprising. You know, they called it a Formula E chicane, and it definitely was. But, you know, we do like a bit of variety, you know, and it definitely had quite a bit of variety there. What was upsetting was, I think, the track surface, because it started breaking up quite easily, just ever so slightly. So offline, it got really dirty. And, you know, we're always trying to make racing exciting, especially Formula One after 30 years of really poor racing because you can't follow a car. Proper efforts this year to try and make it easier to follow cars to follow each other. And, you know, the tarmac disappointing because you couldn't race each other because you could go offline, you get slippery. So there was a lot of single file stuff, and anyone that did go offline a bit, you would get penalized big time. You'd have big problems. You talked about Bottas going offline and losing 2 places. It's really meant that you didn't get the racing you wanted. And for America, we need racing. We need side-by-side stuff. It needs to be exciting. And we saw that at Saudi Arabia, you know, and Saudi Arabia has a very similar layout to this track, you know, corners that feed into each other, filled with long straights, one massive straight, in fact, with a big DRS zone. And we had a lot of side-by-side stuff in Saudi Arabia. So you know, that tarmac was just kind of right. And they need to replicate that here for Miami for next year, I think.
Juan, was that something the drivers talked to you about after the Grand Prix, about it being dirty offline? Was it an issue for them?
Yeah, they knew it beforehand, no? Because I was talking with Daniel Ricciardo on Saturday, and he mentioned that if it's going to be a mess, everybody crashing each other, or a train, because if you go out of the line, it's impossible to overtake. And it was like a little train, no? DRS train also in some points. I think the cars are easier to follow now, but they're not easier to overtake. And one of the reasons is what Alex mentioned. Now, if you go offline, it's very difficult to hang on over there. And we saw mistakes like Gasly also, no, with the incident with Lando. And going a little bit offline, you'll miss the apex, and you lose the time and maybe the position. But I think maybe they can arrange that. If it's a tarmac issue, they have time, they have the money to do it better for next year. But yeah, and Hamilton was he don't like that little chicane, and a lot of drivers mention it. Maybe they can also try to do something over there, because they have the space also, because you have to move the grandstands. It's like parking lot. It's nothing there. You can do a little bit of ranges. I don't know if they will do it, but I think they will do it because they learn from mistakes.
And if I may just add to that, you know, what was quite interesting, Matt, if I just steal in there, is, you know, at Saudi Arabia, what I really enjoyed about it was I really noticed that you could see the cars moving around a lot more. The cars are more difficult to drive at the peak. You know, the suspensions aren't as sophisticated as they were last year. You know, the cars seem to handle all the bumps and twists really easily. But you could see the car moving a lot in Miami, just like it was in Saudi Arabia. So when you saw the drivers pushing the limits, like when Verstappen was trying to defend from Leclerc, and he was getting really close to the barrier, and you could see him twitching and stuff, and you knew he was on the limit. Again, it was like watching the F3 cars at Macau again. And I'm just loving what this new generation of cars brought us, because when you see the drivers really at the limit, you know they're like this, and they're just fractions away from putting it in the wall.
And that's the new generation is the right word, isn't it? Because we've got these new cars, we've got this new style of Formula One. John, the storyteller's question there, we've answered part one. Part two was, what did we think about the police escort taking the drivers from the Parc Fermé to the podium? And that's for you, Juan. What did you think about that? What did the drivers think about that?
They don't mention. They mention in general all the show. They like it. They were a little bit tired, because they arrived very early in the week to do all the promotions and things. But you remember when Liberty Media took over Formula One, and the first Austin Grand Prix, the United States Grand Prix, was this big show. The drivers jumping from the roof. They sometimes overdo it, and I think the podium was fantastic. The first time we see a podium like Formula E podiums, huge podiums would show. Maybe it was too long, the timing between the end of the race and the podium. But yeah, a little bit of show, American style.
Let's talk about the people that made it a show, really, which is we talked about Max Verstappen, a little bit about Red Bull. Let's talk about Ferrari, who, despite locking out the front row, for the first time, I think, since Mexico 2019, managed to lose this Grand Prix, Alex.
Yeah, I think Juan hit it perfectly on the head, really. It was Verstappen's move around Sainz that really set up that victory. If Verstappen hadn't got Sainz at turn one, he wouldn't have had to go at Leclerc. But ultimately, yes, the Ferrari was a little bit slower than Red Bull here. This track was always going to be nip and tuck between the two of them because the layout is very similar to Saudi Arabia, and that's what we saw in Saudi Arabia. But what is showing up with Ferrari, we saw it at Imola, we saw it this weekend as well, is they're not as good at saving the outside front tire with the mediums. And it's something that they'll have to just try and correct a little bit. The good news for Ferrari is they haven't even brought an update package since round one. So, big updates planned for Barcelona, and I think they can really turn this around. I still think they look very good. But yes, today, on the day, they were just beaten by Red Bull and Verstappen, who were just a little bit better.
Juan, are you surprised that Ferrari haven't brought an update so far to that car?
Well, the main reason they don't want to brought everything at the start of the season. They have a strong car. They're holding on it. They think also in the budget. If you bring a lot of updates at the beginning of the season, what's going to happen at the end if you're fighting for the championship? But I think the car, Giorgio Piola, the man with most Grand Prix covered, and he's an analyst. He knows everything, and he's an insider of Ferrari. He said that the car is very easy to set up. It's a car that we see it in the free practice. They put it in the practice, and they already go for the fastest time. That I am not bringing updates. They're going to bring a bunch of updates to Barcelona, and we know that Barcelona is a track that everybody knows. It's a perfect track to test, and I think they're going to get the advantage. And Alex said the right word, because all the drivers, Sainz and Leclerc, were complaining about the medium tire. They lost a lot of time in the medium tire. When they fit the hard tires, they were very good. But I think it's a setup issue, and maybe they have the upgrades to fix it.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so we're looking forward to a Ferrari revival in Spain in 2 weeks. A quick one for you, because one of the things that I adore about watching you interview the drivers is when you switch between languages, and I suspect you get details because you're able to speak to the drivers in different languages. Carlos, of course, speaking Spanish, the 27-year-old, he's sitting 5th in the World Championship. How's he feeling at the moment, Carlos Sainz?
I think this race, even it was a podium, he lost a place with Max because the overtake was very good, and he mentioned that he told the team that he was starting from the dirty side, and he's going to have a handicap there. But I mean, he recovered from the weekend. The bump he gave in the head, then the crash. It was like a kind of mix, and with this podium, he got a little bit of more confidence in himself, because that's, if you start crashing, Alex knows that you lose that.
Yeah,
a little bit confident, and he needs that. With this podium, he's already on the track. He's going to his own home Grand Prix next week, and he want to perform. I don't know if he's going to overperform, because sometimes that's the problem, no? Because Charles is being faster since the start of the season, and that's, it's your teammate, and you want to go faster than him. And when you want to go overdrive, you have that problems.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, wasn't it? I mean, he only got third place, but in a way, this was his most important performance of the year, if you ask me, because he is under pressure now. You know, when he crashed on Friday, I thought, oof, you know, because the last two races he hadn't even done one racing lap combined, you know, and that crash for sure was going to heap a whole bunch of pressure. You know, Formula One drivers are very good at withstanding pressure, but you drive for Ferrari, you're under a microscope all the time, and we saw it a little bit last year. He even alluded to this. He says, you know, I had some bad results, but I was able to come back stronger. And that shows what sort of driver and mental toughness he's had. But this year's different, because Leclerc's in a championship-winning car right now. And so he's even more under the microscope, and he really needs to get those results. And I thought, wow, if he has another accident today, you know, he's going to be in big trouble. But he pulled it out, you know. The qualifying performance was superb, you know, and he had a clean weekend after that accident Friday, which is, I think it was imperative that he had a clean weekend. And at least now he can go to Barcelona with a little bit of, you know, restoring a bit of confidence and maybe, like Juan says, find something extra for his home Grand Prix.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Of course, this track is the home of the Miami Dolphins, but the topic was rather more, if you're in the Mercedes garage, about porpoising rather than dolphins. Sorry about that. Couldn't help it. Couldn't help it.
Terrible.
Let's talk about the Mercedes team for a second. Lewis Hamilton qualified 6th and lost out to the safety car again. George Russell qualified 12th and benefited again from the safety cars. Juan, what was the atmosphere like with the Mercedes drivers after the race?
Well, obviously, George was very not happy, but at least he recovered from a bad Saturday. And, you know, he's the only driver to finish in the top 5 since the beginning of the year, because the other drivers have to retire, DNFs, but he's the only driver to score top 5 since the first race in Bahrain. That's why he's getting the results. You know, even if he starts bad, he's benefit from the safety car once also over Lewis Hamilton. This is his second time. But he was his call. You know, the team called him to the pits, and he said, no, I would like to stay out for a safety car, and came up a safety car, you know.
Yeah.
And you know that in this kind of races, with the tires, they're not good. With the tarmac, it was a little bit difficult. It's a possibility of a safety car, and I think he managed to keep that tires alive. He was doing very good laps with the hard tires, with I don't know, 40 laps almost, and he managed to do a great race. But I don't like to, you know, the comparison with Lewis and Russell. Lewis was doing a great race also. He don't have a good start because he was in the dirty side, but then he recovers. He pushed a lot, and he was very close to Valtteri Bottas. I think it was a kind of luck, if you can say. He was lucky, George Russell, to get that safety car. Even he was waiting for it. But the atmosphere in the team is getting well. I did an interview one-to-one with Toto, and they're fighting to get this thing sorted. And Lewis, obviously, in the pen was, you know, Lewis. He was overtook by his teammate, and he's 6th. He was not very happy of it, but that's life.
Yeah.
I've noticed that with him, is that when he's had a good day, you know, Lewis, you can talk about when I was 15 and I was karting, and he goes through the family history and all that sort of stuff. Bless him. And his eyes are sparkling. And when he's had a bad day, it's like 5 words and then he's out of there. But I was slightly surprised to hear him being critical, Lewis Hamilton this is, of the team asking him what he wanted to do behind the safety car, right? About whether given what you just said about George Russell, and also about the fact that Lewis has been somebody who in the past has been overriding the team, has been telling the team what to do. Juan?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was surprised also. Like, throwing the ball to the team, no? Like, he was a little bit lost what to do. I think if you're leading and you have that confidence, you can make the decisions for yourself. And he did it right a couple of times. Remember, Silverstone, a lot of times Lewis had that advantage. But he was leading. He was like taking care of the lead and knowing everything on the car. Here he was mixed with Bottas. He didn't know they pitted already. He's gonna pit. That's why he said, if I pit, I'm gonna lose even if I don't pit, I'm going to lose the position with Russell because he has better tires. He said in the radio. And he wasn't, like, how do you say, when you don't know what to do. And that's why he went to the team. Okay, get sorted you know, and that happens.
Threw the ball in their direction. Somebody else who benefited, like George Russell did, benefited from the safety car, Esteban Ocon. Let's have a look at my favourite chart. You have not seen this before, perhaps, Juan. I love this, the race performance chart that Tessa puts together for us before this show. And you can see there that we've highlighted Esteban, who made up 12 places, having crashed in free practice 3 out at turn 14. And he benefited, yes, from that safety car on lap 42, and now sits 9th in the drivers' standings. I want to ask you, Alex, really, whether what you thought about Esteban's performance, really, especially the crashing part, I suppose.
Yeah, so, I mean, Esteban, great performance. Go from 20th up to 8th. Fantastic. There's no two ways about it. And of course, there were a few other gems. We talked about Russell, we've talked about Ocon, and of course, Alexander Albon also. And Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll from the pit lane, let's not forget. Still some great performances. And these are drivers, Ocon, Albon, and Stroll, that made the hard tire work early on. I have to say that when the first 4 laps are done, I thought, wow, the hard tire was a mistake, because the guys on the hard tires went straight to the back, and they really struggled in the first few laps. And I thought, no, that's got to be a mistake. But it turned out good. They could make the hard tire last so long into the race. Especially Russell all the way to the safety car. Okay, Ocon got a little bit lucky with the whole Magnussen Alonso incident, and of course, Norris getting stuck behind the Aston Martin train. But still, really good results. Ocon, Ocon, he seems to be a little bit under the pressure as well, because Alonso looks like he's getting a second wind for sure. He's looking very quick. Although Alonso's not had the results yet, he looks really good. I'm quite impressed with him. So Ocon would have been really happy to finish in front of his teammate.
Well, of course he didn't, did he, on the track? Because Alonso finished 9th. So he finished 8th and then got the 5-second penalty, Juan, and then he got a second 5-second penalty. So what was his view post the race?
Well, Alonso was very, Saturday he said the traffic was terrible. He was upset. He was not feeling good. Then he said, well, let's see tomorrow. And he made a couple of mistakes. He got 2 penalties. He was, I don't know, the incident he had at the start also with Lewis a little bit. They touch a little bit of the... I don't know. Alonso is also, I think, not under pressure, but he wants to, so much to score good points and be on the front. Remember, in Australia, he almost, I don't know, he had a hit for the pole. I don't know if he's going to do it or not, but it was a front row for sure, and he had that issue in the car. And he mentioned it before that a track with some similarities also, because it's not a permanent track and whatever. It's a permanent track. He said maybe have a chance here, and he was a little upset. That's why in the race he would say, they hit me from behind. He took me over. Alonso complaining in the radio is a little bit of the Alonso style. But I think Ocon is a little bit more, even, him, Ocon. Ocon is a very aggressive driver when he had to have to be. The fight with Checo, the fight with Alonso, I don't remember when was that, in Saudi Arabia. It was very tight. Yeah, Saudi. But I know he benefited from all the crashes, because Vettel was in a position with Mick Schumacher to score points. Mick Schumacher was in 10th position for the first time to score points, and then they both crashed, and that's what given all these crashes, Landos and the things, put him on the list to score point. And after Alonso's penalty, obviously he gained that points because he was behind. But I think Ocon is a little bit step behind Fernando Alonso in this occasion.
Right, but not getting quite as agitated as Fernando's getting. It seems that Fernando's a little bit, isn't he? Like he's, as you say, he's really wants to get good results, and it's showing. Somebody who's remaining. Go, Alex. Yeah.
It's not the first time though. Remember when Fernando went back to Renault after McLaren? We saw the same thing. Remember he won that controversial race in Singapore, but we saw a lot of fighting drives and a lot of accidents, and we're not finishing. You know, it's not like Hamilton. When Hamilton has a bad year, or who else shall we say, or other drivers, they don't. It's not all or nothing. With Alonso, you've seen that it seems to be a bit all or nothing. You know, and we certainly saw that when he first went back to Renault, and then the first few seasons when he went back to McLaren after Ferrari or so, there was a lot of some charging drives, but you know, everything's on the line, and I think that's what makes him an exciting driver to watch as well.
Somebody who doesn't cause too much drama, but scoring points. We need to mention him, Alex Albon.
Yeah.
Exactly to Juan's point, a lot of action on track, people hitting each other, and the barriers certainly helped Alex this weekend. But the 26-year-old came through to score 2 points in the end because of Fernando's 2 penalties. Ended up finishing 9th with a 9-place gain, and he's got even redder hair than before. Juan, I want to ask you what you feel about Alex, because you saw him have the difficult time at Red Bull Racing. Is he a different driver now, or is it just that he's not having Max Verstappen in the other car?
I think it's a combination of both things, but not having Max Verstappen in the other car, I think, is the big thing, because he was under pressure, you know, and I think it was an error from Red Bull to put him in the middle of the season and take Pierre Gasly, you know, because if he stayed one at the end of the season in Toro Rosso, he was more prepared, but you going against Max Verstappen, it's you know, a suicide. And I think now with knowing that the team that he's the #1 driver, it's not because Nicolas, but we know until where Nicolas can go with George also. He was one of the drivers of this gang, no, if you can say it that way, with all the Max Verstappens, Leclerc, Russell, they were all together. And I don't want to be long, but I did an interview with George Russell the other day, and I mentioned that. It's the first time I see, I've been in Formula One for so many years, all these drivers, they were all battling together to be in Formula One. It's incredible. There's like 5 of them. And he said, yeah, because if I was putting all the effort to win the race, and it was Max the one that won it, and second was Charles, and third was I don't know, Pierre Gasly, I want to be better than them. And then everybody was pushing each other. And he compares, if I am with another drivers, if I am first and the other driver's not even close, I don't have that motivation, you know, kind of that. And it was very interesting because also he mentioned Lando Norris, because they both were karting together, and all of them are from Formula One. It's kind of a, yeah, I don't know, something that I've never seen before.
It's generational change, isn't it? Let's have a look at where those guys all line up in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. We know, of course, if you just joined us, welcome to the GoF1 Show, that Max Verstappen won the Miami Grand Prix. He now sits just 19 points behind his championship rival. There he is, Charles Leclerc, and Sergio Perez is third. George Russell, incredibly, having, as Juan pointed out, the only driver to finish in the top 5 in the first 5 races, sits there in 4th place ahead of the second Ferrari driver, Carlos Sainz, and then Lewis Hamilton down there in 6th place, having overtaken Lando Norris in the standings this weekend. And there's Valtteri Bottas for Alfa Romeo 8th, Esteban Ocon 9th, and then Kevin Magnussen scraping into the top 10 for the Haas team. I want to talk about Valtteri a little bit, because people are saying, oh, this is Valtteri, whatever it is, 3.0, 4.0, whatever it is, they know, the next generation of Valtteri. But my view is that he hasn't changed. He's the same driver as he always has been, which is to say very quick over a single lap and sort of slightly less exciting in race conditions. But Juan, you've watched him close up these first 5 races. What do you think about Valtteri in 2022?
Well, yes, and also I chat with him in a long interview. And remember he mentioned, well, in Mercedes I don't have a voice. Or if I say something, they will not follow what I'm saying. But then he say, okay, it was not like that. But here in this team, whatever I say, they go with me. You know, I mean, talking about setups and things inside the team. And I think that's important. You know, he feels now an important driver. It's not easy. It's like when we mentioned about Albon being next to Lewis Hamilton. No, it's quite, you know, Lewis. He destroyed Rosberg's mind. He won a championship, but then he retired. It's very difficult. He managed to win races, be faster than Lewis in a single lap, as you mentioned. But now he feels like he's at home. He's, and he have a strong driver, even as a rookie. In some points, I think when you sue now, it's a little bit more like knowing that Valtteri is very fast. But at the beginning of the start of the season, he did a great result. I don't remember where. But Valtteri he knows that he owns the team now, and that's giving him the, everybody was talking about Lewis, George Russell, everybody, but Valtteri qualified 5th, and he did a great performance in that Alfa Romeo. And even with that little mistake, he will stay ahead, maybe, I don't know, from George, but obviously in front of Lewis Hamilton. But he was fighting with 2 Mercedes, in an Alfa Romeo. That's amazing.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think? Before I
I agree with you. I think, it looks very good because Alfa looks very good this year, I mean, he's still a world-class driver. Don't get me wrong. He's a really, really good driver. But he's not Lewis Hamilton. We've seen that, But yes, it is. He obviously does look a lot happier, though, doesn't he, at Alfa Romeo? But I think the Ferrari power unit is also helping a lot, the Haas and the Alfa Romeo, and is giving him good positions. But you still got to take advantage of it, and Bottas is doing that. But he's not perfect either. We saw it on Sunday. He still made a small mistake when he's in front of both Mercs. Could have been 5th instead of 7th.
Yeah, which is quite important. But let's have a look at the constructor standings, because we know Valtteri has scored 30 points for himself and sits 8th in the driver standings. But we notice now, when we look at this, that Alfa Romeo sits 5th in the constructor standings with 31 points. So 30 of those from the Finnish 32-year-old. And it's very close at the top now, isn't it, Alex, between Ferrari and Red Bull Racing?
And the guys at the top, it's just going to come down to see how the, inverted commas, the number 2 drivers do, because Sainz and Perez, really, that's going to determine the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes there with 95. The battle for 4th is going to be a great one to watch this year. I don't know which way to call it. McLaren, Alfa Romeo, Alpine is there as well. I think it's going to come down to those 3. Haas is there, Haas is a bit further back down, 8 points, but that's because Schumacher hasn't scored any points yet. If Schumacher could start scoring points, maybe Haas could join that party too.
And we've got Juan on, and I need to let you go, Juan, to get on with your... I'm sure you're going to work very hard on your 1 week in Miami before you go to Barcelona. But before we let you go on carrying on with that, whatever work it is that you have to do in Miami for a whole week, I want to ask you about Zhou Guanyu. Research, right? Research. Tell me about Zhou Guanyu. What do you think about him?
Tell me about the research.
First Chinese driver.
Well, the first race he scored a point. No, it was the first race of the season. Rookie, I think. I see him very confident. That's everything. Yeah, like the way he speaks, the way he moves. He have a very big confidence, and that's going to help him. But as you mentioned, all the points was scored by Valtteri. He only scored 1 point at the beginning of the season, and it reminds me a little bit of Yuki Tsunoda when he started. Everybody was like, wow, Yuki, and then he started making mistakes and not feeling. And he have a Valtteri Bottas, even is not one of the best drivers. He's an experienced driver with a team, working with a team like Mercedes. He have a lot of experience, and that's making the count. And at the end of the day, one driver scored 30 points and the other one won. It's a big difference, but it will take time. But I think first of all, it's the first Chinese driver in Formula One, and one of the best Chinese in Formula One ever, or won the sport. And I think he's going to have the chance, but I don't know. You have to learn. It's like you mentioned Ferrari. I don't want to be long, but Carlos Sainz last year had nothing to lose with Leclerc, and he did it very well. Now this year, he have to prove himself. You have to be faster than Leclerc, and that's the point. The first year, everybody say, okay, like Mick. Mick last year, he was with Mazepin, and now he have a driver like Kevin, and you get under pressure, because Kevin is getting all the points of the team, and I don't know, but you have to give it some time to. How do you Joe? No, he likes to call him Joe.
Yeah.
Juan Yuzu. I don't know how to say it. What will be
Joe,
the right way?
Well, this is a very good question, Juan. That's typical of you as the experienced professional that you are to ask that question, because as you may know, in Asia, particularly in China, a family name comes first. So he would be called Zhou Guanyu, and that's why people call him Zhou. Yeah, because Guan Yu is his given name, but you know, Zhou is a common name in the English language.
We always, I mean, if you read it, it's Guan Yu Zhu, and it's the other way around. Okay, I will learn it for the next one.
Well, I noticed actually, because that's what people have been doing in international racing, is putting first name first and second, you know, family name second. But I noticed that Formula One in the results this weekend are putting Zhou first in capital letters, the family name.
Great.
So Formula One is getting its protocols updated, and I better move on from that because it might be a sensitive topic. But I want to say to you, Juan, it's been a really fantastic pleasure and privilege to have you on the show. Really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule now on a Monday in Miami. I'm only teasing, and hope that you can.
I want to say sorry for my English because I have a long night because, you know, celebrations, parties, Formula One parties, and I wake up and I said my head was a little bit. But now, thank you very much. I will recover this week with all my research I have to do for Barcelona, and I think I will be in Bahamas or something like that. No, but anyway,
send pictures.
So
brilliant. Thanks for joining us. See you again soon.
Thank you. I want to see you soon. When are you going to go to the races?
Certainly Singapore.
Singapore.
We'll see you there. Singapore Grand Prix. Yeah, we'll welcome you to Singapore Grand Prix. Thanks to Juan Fosaroli.
Ciao.
And when we were looking at the Constructors' Championship there, we saw that McLaren, fourth in the standings, and the commonality, of course, between the McLaren team and the GoF1 Show is we share our partner in WebEx by Cisco.
Late braking, what do you think? Love it or no chance?
Daniel, no chance.
Let's put up a poll. Love it, love it, love it wins.
We need that part.
It's nearly done.
Can you repeat that? That's better.
It's done.
With WebEx, the McLaren Formula One team is collaborating like never before. Introducing the WebEx Suite, driving hybrid work.
Obviously, a lot of focus on the guys because there's only guys in Formula One, but the Miami Grand Prix weekend was also the first round of the W Series, the racing championship that is designed exclusively, of course, for ladies. And I was able to catch up shortly after the Miami Grand Prix with my old teammate from the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2009, Hideki Noda, but much more importantly, Hideki's daughter, who's called Juju Noda, and who races in the W Series. My first question is about the atmosphere in Miami at the Grand Prix. What was it like?
She said the first time visiting Formula One race, and the atmosphere is amazing, and especially Miami here is very new to everyone, and the facility was amazing, and she's never seen the atmosphere like that, and she was really excited about it.
How was it first time to do W Series? What did she think about that?
It wasn't as good as I expected. In free practice on Friday, I just had only half an hour. Unfortunately, on very much last lap, I had an accident and damaged the car. I had to struggle with the car, and then I started to lose confidence with the car. It was very tough for me.
I want to ask you, Hideki-san, you're a former F1 driver. You've been training young drivers so many years, but this is different. It's your daughter. How does it feel for you?
That's a good question. Sometimes I worry. I'm worried as a father. You know, if she's trying hard and trying to push, sometimes I'm a bit worried, of course, as being father. But at the same time, she has to achieve a good result. As a racing driver, more than safety issues, I like her to get achieve the good result. So sometimes frustrating and sometimes fun to work with. It's a mix of everything. Being her father and I'm very close to her. Usually, like her age, it starts to get difficult to communicate with a daughter being 60 years old and between the father and daughter. Sometimes it's difficult, but we work together and we talk a lot. We understand each other, and I think I really thank to my daughter.
Great to catch up with Hideki and Juju. Alex, I want to ask you, because of course you're a professional, I don't want to say driver coach, because you actually develop talent from simulators all the way through to the racetrack. But one of those drivers is indeed your son, Alistair. And how it is different when it is a family member that you're trying to guide and train.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because Noda-san, and he was my teammate, by the way, as well. We did Formula Nippon together with Team Le Mans. He's really embraced that role, isn't he? Like a bit like how Jos Verstappen did with Max Verstappen. Means he's following him to all the events, helping with the coaching, guiding and stuff. But he's taken a very slightly different approach in the fact that he kept... gosh, that looks like one of the cars I drove. But he actually got Juju into single-seaters at a really young age. I remember she was out, both of them were out in Asia testing Formula 4 when she was only, I want to say 13, 14. So, I mean, they live and breathe it together. There's, it's good to see her getting some good results and hopefully they can push on from there.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's... it's just very challenging. I'm looking forward to following W Series this year. We're going to have, hopefully, on the next show for the Spanish Grand Prix, we're going to catch up with the other driver from our part of the world, Bianca Bustamante, who's, of course, representing the Philippines. So some local, regional interest in W Series in 2022. Let's move on to news off track. And there was quite a lot of it, I thought, at Miami. Obviously, all the hoopla, but in particular, Lewis Hamilton and the topic of piercings and jewelry and so on. This is Lewis in the press conference on Thursday, reacting, maybe not reacting, he's certainly wearing lots of jewelry, as we can see. Every single piece of jewelry he owns and 3 watches. I think it was a reaction to the FIA saying no jewelry will be worn by drivers. I don't know what you think about. I'll let you go first, and I'll sharpen my knife while you're talking.
Yeah, I mean, it's the FIA's job to be thinking about safety. I'm not the right person to talk about this. I still consider myself a driver. So as a driver, Brundle said it well. When you step into a car, you accept certain risks. And worrying about jewelry under your race-proof clothes, it's to me as a driver, it's complete utter nonsense. I'd be like, that's not going to kill me. What's going to kill me is you not putting Techco barriers in the right space. Or getting the tarmac wrong and stuff. So that's what I'd be worried about. And even the fireproof clothing we wear, it only lasts for 20 seconds in a blaze. It's not properly fireproof. Why don't you spend some more time on making sure the clothing is properly fireproof? I remember when I did A1GP, there was a vendor going around with carbon fiber underwear, and that was properly fireproof. You could put the gloves on, and you could put a blowtorch to it, and you wouldn't feel the heat to it. Why is that not in the system? Maybe it's a cost issue, but as a driver, worrying about jewelry is a bit silly, if you ask me.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, which is that if there was nothing else going on, if there hadn't been the debacle of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix last year, which involved the guy who we're now talking about who wears lots of jewelry, it would be a straightforward conversation about, look, I know we haven't actually really prosecuted this rule very closely over the last decade or so, but guys, if you have to do an MRI scan and you've got a nose piercing or whatsoever, that's going to be problematic. So we're going to have to ask you not to do that, because if something happened, it would be a problem. But when they haven't been doing that, and then they do start this kind of conversation, every race is another, be reminded, no whatever it is, no jewelry in the car. and I don't think many people wear jewelry other than like Lewis with his ear piercings, no piercings, wedding ring.
You can have piercings all over.
Talked about it. Well, yes.
You have piercings all over your body, mate. What do you do with
exactly?
Okay, yeah, CAT scan's pretty important. You need to be able to get your head in a CAT scan, right? And if you got it's gonna be super painful if you've got a nose piercing that gets ripped out of the nose, right? So, yeah, okay, that's kind of sensible. Sensible not to wear a watch, because I've seen guys with mashed up hands, back of the hands, where the watch has gone into the back of your wrist. You know, so that some things make sense. But let's be sensible, I think.
And isn't it the problem that when anybody starts a conversation about something, if then, like as we had that turn 14 barrier, there was criticism after Carlos Sainz's crash on Friday, and then Esteban Ocon crashed in the same place on Saturday. There wasn't a Tech Po barrier there. Probably there wasn't room. But the point is, once they exposed themselves to this conversation, the FIA, it was almost always going to go in the wrong direction.
Yeah. So, because the FIA have this issue, don't they, Matt? If they bring it up, or if it's even mentioned once, they have to act on it, right? So, if someone says something about jewelry, there's a report somewhere that says, listen, earring might get snagged on the balaclava, which might slow down the extraction by 3 seconds. Then they have to act once it's in the report, because if they don't act, they're liable, right? If someone gets hurt and stuff. So it's almost like they can't act once it's brought up. But you bring up the Tecco barrier is a great thing. We had 2 accidents there, and in the race I still saw that there was no Tecco barrier there. So I was a bit surprised by that.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a surprise is what's coming up next in the schedule. 22 races still scheduled. We're not going to look at all of them, but what I want to do is remind our viewers, of course, that the next one is the Spanish Grand Prix from Barcelona on May the 22nd, and our show will be more typically immediately after the Grand Prix. And I also want to ask you, Alex, when you look at the next 2 races, Spain and Monaco, who do you think, this is a good thing we did last year, you got them almost always right, who's going to be strong at Spain and in Monaco?
So it's going to be Ferrari, Barcelona, Monaco. And assuming the Ferrari upgrades aren't earth-shattering, then it's going to be back to Red Bull for Baku, Montreal, Silverstone, and Austria.
So
pretty sure Red Bull's going to win at Barcelona and Monaco.
There you go. Oh, Red Bull are going to win at Barcelona. Okay, I'm going to go against you.
No,
I think Ferrari's going to.
Did I say Red Bull?
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant Ferrari. Ferrari going to win at
Yeah.
Barcelona and Monaco, and then the rest of the races down, you're going to see it's going to be Red Bull.
Gosh, it's going to be exciting for the championship. Let's hope you're right. That's all we've got time for, ladies and gentlemen, today. We are doing a lot of what we call extra content, bonus content, which is going up on the GoF1.tv website. You might have seen we had a chat with Darrell Young, Hong Kong's racing hero, before the Miami Grand Prix, talking about what he was doing in Miami, helping Bianca Bustamante with her W Series challenge, and with the legendary American broadcaster Bob Varsha very kindly joined us, telling us his views on the growth of Formula One in the United States. And we're catching up later this week with none other than Günther Steiner, the now world famous because of the Netflix Drive to Survive series team principal of Haas, and that will be going on to the GoF1.tv website, so you can catch up with all that there. So that's it from us for the Miami Grand Prix. Final words to you, Alex Yoong.
I love the season. It's getting better and better. It's not disappointing in any way for me. Can't wait to the next one.
Nor can I. Can't wait. Stay tuned. Stay with us. The GoF1 Show.
See ya.